Hi everyone, Pezzadoodle here. I recently ran a little giveaway on my blog and I asked people what techniques or what items do they not use, do they wish they knew how to use, do they wish they knew how to do the most. And I got a lot of comments about wanting to know how to distress. So I'm going to give you a couple of quick tips. There's obviously a lot of things that people can do and it gets more and more involved, but these are just basic quick tips if it's not your main type of card making or paper crafting, but you want to be able to do it every now and then. The first thing I'm going to tell you is your paper. This is the little setup I have for this card we're going to do today. And the paper, there are lots and lots of distress patterns and types of paper out right now, and this comes from a pad by K & Company, and so that's a great place to start. If you get your pattern paper in a way that looks distressed, then you're going to have half of the look accomplished. The second tip I'm going to give you is brown, and what I mean by that is think brown instead of black. If you're going to stamp, use brown ink instead of black ink. If you're using something to matte, use dark brown instead of black. So those two tips right there will help greatly. Or use cream instead of white. That's another tip for coloring. Now I have these great crocheted embellishments. I did these myself. You can buy them all kinds of places, and I did them in shades of brown and pink. And then I have these 4 distress inks. You can do the same technique without distress ink. However, the distress inks are such perfect colors and they do so many things that I have them on hand anyway. But if you don't, pick colors that are similar to this. And I'm going to tell you, you're going to want a dark brown. You have to have a dark brown if you want to distress. And then a second color, any lighter type color. We can use antique linen, tattered rose, spun sugar is one of the newer colors of distress ink. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take my paper, my pattern papers first. I'll do this one with tattered rose. It's already got a cream background. You're going to take your foam ink blending tool, and I do have a whole video on this. If you haven't seen it, you can find it on YouTube. And you're just going to rub onto your paper. Now I did not make any of this ahead of time, so I'm going to see, just like you're going to see, if we like that look or not. It does not need to be stark. You want it to be somewhat subdued. So you can see on this corner, and I'll give you a close-up in just a minute, I just keep rubbing the ink fairly well onto my piece until I get the look I want. And so here it is. The ink is not stark, but you can tell the difference between the corner and the other edge. What you'll want to do next is use your brown ink, your darker brown. And this you're going to go along just the outer edge. So if you watch, just the outer edge. You do want it to have somewhat of a smooth finish as it goes on to where you blended the pink. And there you have sort of a two-tone look. The last step you're going to do is this little paper edge distresser. This is the Tim Holtz tool specifically, but you can find these by a lot of different companies. It's all the same thing. You take this little tool, it's got little blades in these nooks, and you just run it along the edge of your cardstock. And you can do this as much or as little as you want. All depends on the look you're going for. So you would take that and it just frays up the edges of your paper and your cardstock so they look old and worn and kind of shabby. And so there you have the beginnings of a distressed look. Waiting for my camera to focus. So it's a combination of inking with the lighter color, then coming back and inking with the darker brown, and then using this paper edge distressing tool. And then once you do that to all of your panels, I would do it to this panel. And then I would also take this pink panel, and since it's already pink, I don't need to use the lighter pink foam ink blending technique, but just the brown. So I would just take the brown along the edges of my pink paper, like this. And then again, come back with your distressing tool. There's no real right or wrong way to do this. You just have to kind of play around with it and get the feel for the tool. And there you have a distressed edge. Once you put the card together, you will end up with a very distressed looking shabby chic sort of look, following those few tips. Again, use a distressed style or distressed pattern paper. Think brown instead of black, cream instead of white, and then ink your edges. Use a two-tone and use your paper edge distresser. I hope you found that helpful. You can see the finished card on my blog. Thanks so much.